Once upon a time, after Kronos took the throne as king of the gods, a prophecy foretold that just as he had overthrown his father Uranus, Kronos would one day be overthrown by his own child. So, whenever his wife Rhea gave birth, Kronos would promptly swallow each child whole. We've covered the specifics of that in previous videos, so we'll skip the messy details here. In short, Rhea had 6 children: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. Now, we've already dedicated separate videos to each of the 3 brothers, so in this video we'll focus on the 3 sisters, Hestia, Demeter, and Hera. After all, we live in a world where attention usually centers on the men, and to be honest, each goddess alone doesn't quite have enough material to fill an entire video. First up is the eldest sister, Hestia, goddess of the hearth and family fire. Hestia is a low-key, introverted deity who prefers to stay out of both divine and mortal affairs, especially now that everyone's switched to gas stoves and induction cooktops. According to some tales, Hestia held one of the original 12 seats on Olympus, but graciously stepped down to make room for Dionysus, the god of wine. She's known as one of the kindest deities in Greek mythology, so kind in fact, that there's not much drama or adventure in her story. Next up is the middle sister, Demeter. Though she doesn't have the power or authority of her 4 siblings, Demeter was deeply revered by the ancients. Unlike some gods who brought more trouble than blessings, Demeter offered humans countless benefits. As the goddess of agriculture, Demeter bestowed fertility upon the land, enabling crops to flourish. Her most famous child is Persephone, whom she had with Zeus. As covered in previous videos, Persephone was abducted by Hades to become his queen in the underworld. In the end, Persephone spends half the year with Demeter on Earth, and the other half with Hades below. For the 6 months Persephone is with Demeter, the land is fertile and the climate is mild, bringing a bountiful harvest. During the other half of the year, when Persephone is in the underworld, Demeter mourns, and the earth becomes barren, harsh, and unproductive. A cycle that gives us the seasons. When Demeter discovered that Zeus had given Hades permission to abduct Persephone, she was furious and quit her job on Olympus, abandoning her duties as a goddess. Disguised as an old woman in black, she wandered aimlessly until she arrived at a small town called Eleusis. After a long journey, Demeter sat down on a stone near a well to rest. This stone later became known as the Stone of Sorrow, and the well as the Maiden's Well. Initially, no one recognized the mysterious old woman. But soon, 4 young girls came to fetch water, and seeing the stranger, asked her story. Demeter spun a tragic tale claiming that her family had been captured by pirates and sold into slavery, while she alone had managed to escape. The girls, moved by her plight, persuaded their mother, Queen Metaneira, to welcome the old woman into their home. Demeter was received with warmth and respect, and she soon offered to become a nursemaid to Metaneira's infant son, Demophon. Under her care, the boy thrived, growing stronger and healthier each day, much to the delight of his parents. But Demeter had some unconventional parenting methods. Secretly, she was imparting special training to Demophon, trying to make him immortal. Each night, she would wrap him tightly in swaddling clothes and place him in a fire, slowly forging his body to become indestructible. However, one night, Metaneira grew suspicious of Demeter's nocturnal routines and decided to spy on her. Upon seeing her child in the flames, Metaneira shrieked in horror. Startled, Demeter dropped the child, who supposedly died on the spot. Angered by the interruption, Demeter revealed her divine form, demanded respect, and claimed Eleusis as her own territory. The king and queen, Teleus and Metaneira, commanded the people to build a grand temple in her honor. Demeter remained in Eleusis until Persephone returned, finally agreeing to go back to Olympus. But here's the twist. There's another version of the story where no child died at all. Instead of Demophon, it was his older brother Triptolemus who received Demeter's immortal training. To reward the family's hospitality, Demeter made Triptolemus immortal and took him on as a disciple, teaching him the secrets of agriculture. Together, Demeter, Persephone, and Triptolemus became the 3 great deities of agriculture in ancient Greece, revered as protectors of the harvest and the cycle of life and death. While Demeter usually didn't clash with mortals, there's one notable exception: the story of King Erysichthon of Thessaly. He was a true lone wolf, completely indifferent to the gods, never bothering with offerings or even consulting an oracle. He lived his life as though the gods were just rumors. One year, Erysichthon decided to build a house and sent his men to gather wood from a sacred grove under Demeter's protection. He was especially taken with a magnificent oak tree and decided to chop it down himself. Little did he know, this oak was a gathering place for the nymph who protected the forest. Demeter, hearing the tree's cries, took on a mortal form and came down to stop him. But Erysichthon, undeterred, warned her to get out of his way or he'd put the axe through her face. Demeter's patience snapped. She cursed him with an insatiable hunger, one that no amount of food could ever satisfy. Back home, Erysichthon felt an overwhelming hunger and demanded a feast, but no matter how much he ate, the hunger only grew. As he devoured his way through every bit of food, he sold off all his gold, silver, and even his Bitcoin stash to buy more. Still, the gnawing hunger remained. In the end, he was forced to sell his own daughter, Maestra, for more money to buy food. Luckily, Poseidon took pity on her and granted her the ability to shapeshift, allowing her to escape each time her father sold her off by transforming into a bird, a mouse, or whatever creature would get her out of sight. But each time she returned home, Erysichthon would sell her again. Eventually, Maestra stopped coming back, and Erysichthon was left alone, tormented by a hunger beyond all reason. In his final act of desperation, he began to tear at his own flesh, devouring himself piece by piece until he died. A fitting end for someone who dared to defy Demeter's sacred grove. The youngest daughter of Rhea is Hera, goddess of marriage and family and the protector of wedded bliss. As queen of the gods and the official wife of Zeus, Hera oversees the sanctity of marriage. Though, given her husband's track record, she had her hands full. We've already covered the Zeus the Love Machine story, so let's focus on Hera herself. Hera was famously beautiful, catching the eye not only of Zeus but also of others who dared to try their luck. During a great battle against Zeus, the giant Porphyrion rallied his fellow giants, stacking mountains atop each other to scale Olympus and abduct Hera. Fortunately, Zeus and Hercules stepped in, stopping Porphyrion before he could make a move. Then there was Ixion, a mortal king of the Lapiths, who also set his sights on Hera. Now, Ixion was not exactly a model citizen. He had once married Dia, daughter of King Dionaeus, promising his father-in-law a voucher from Trumquoy and Trumfigure as part of the marriage deal. But after the wedding, Ixion reneged on his promises and even killed his father-in-law, tossing the body into a pit. Despite Ixion's heinous crime, he managed to appeal to Zeus, shedding enough tears and groveling to get Zeus to pardon him. Zeus, feeling generous, invited him to Olympus, granting him the privilege of dining with the gods to achieve immortality. However, as soon as Ixion arrived, he was captivated by Hera and started plotting to seduce her. Zeus, a seasoned expert in these matters, saw through him immediately. He crafted a cloud in the shape of Hera, tricking Ixion into believing he'd successfully seduced the goddess. Ixion, smug and self-satisfied, fell for the illusion, only to be busted by Zeus. As punishment, Zeus commanded Hermes to bind Ixion to a fiery wheel with snakes, condemning him to an eternity of spinning through the underworld in Tartarus. A fitting fate for a mortal who dared to betray both his own kin and his divine benefactor. Zeus, though famously jealous, was equally famous for his infidelities, which made life rather difficult for Hera, the goddess of marriage and family. Unable to take revenge on Zeus himself, Hera instead directed her wrath at his many lovers and illegitimate children. Among the most notable of these love triangles was her vendetta against Io. Io was the stunningly beautiful daughter of the river god Inachus, ruler of Argos. Her fame spread far and wide, and Zeus, not one to ignore beauty, decreed that Io must yield to his affections, warning that he'd obliterate Inachus's people with lightning if she refused. Terrified, Inachus handed his daughter over to Zeus without protest. But just as Zeus and Io were in the middle of an amorous rendezvous, Hera suddenly appeared, hot on their trail. Thinking quickly, Zeus transformed Io into a cow to hide her from his wife. Hera, not fooled in the slightest, casually asked for the cow as a gift. With no choice, Zeus complied, and Hera assigned the hundred-eyed giant, Argus, to guard Io day and night. Argus was the perfect watchdog. With 100 eyes scattered across his body, he could rest 50 of them at a time, remaining perpetually alert. To free Io, Zeus sent Hermes to devise a plan. Hermes disguised himself as a shepherd and played his flute near Argus, who, despite his gruff appearance, had an appreciation for music. Inviting Hermes to play closer, Argus soon found himself lulled to sleep as Hermes played song after song. Once Argus was fully asleep, Hermes seized the moment and ended his life, freeing Io. In another version, Hermes simply used a magic staff to cast a deadly spell on Argus. Grieving the loss of her loyal servant, Hera took Argus's 100 eyes and placed them on the tail of the peacock. a symbol she kept by her side as a tribute to his faithfulness. But Io's trials were far from over. Hera sent a relentless gadfly to sting and torment Io in her bovine form, driving her to wander from one land to another in agony. She finally reached Scythia, where the chained titan Prometheus advised her to continue to Egypt. There, at last, Io was reunited with Zeus and freed from her cow form. This affair between Zeus and Io produced Epiphus, the first king of Egypt. Through him, Zeus's lineage spread far and wide, leading to legendary descendants like Perseus and Hercules, who carried both divine genes and heroic legacies. Hera had another bad habit, taking out her frustrations on innocent bystanders. One day, when Zeus was off on one of his escapades, Hera set a trap, pretending to be out so she could catch him red-handed with his latest fling. But just as she was about to return, she bumped into Echo, a nymph and handmaiden of Artemis. Echo was not only a skilled storyteller, but also a gossip magnet. Whenever she spoke, people would gather around, drawn by her knack for juicy tales about everyone and everything. Hera, initially planning just a quick listen, soon found herself completely absorbed in Echo's stories, losing track of time. By the time Hera remembered her plan and dashed back home, it was too late. Zeus had already cleared out. Furious, Hera took her anger out on Echo, cursing her so that she could never speak freely again. From then on, Echo could only repeat the last words spoken by others. Retreating into the forest, she lived out her days among nature, her name forever linked to the phenomenon of echoes in Western languages. Hera had 4 children with Zeus, 2 sons, Ares and Hephaestus, and 2 daughters, Hebe and Eileithyia. Hebe served as the cupbearer of Olympus, pouring drinks and attending to the gods. Eileithyia, the goddess of childbirth, often accompanied her mother to assist in bringing new life into the world. As for Ares and Hephaestus, their stories deserve videos of their own. And with that, we wrap up today's video.